we are back. Ellen has apparently decided that she doesn't mind doing this every week. I know that she's going on vacation or some stuff next week, so we may not get Ellen next week. I don't know. It's not like I can find a substitution for you. I may actually have to interview somebody for next week's show. And if you guys are listening or watching, obviously we put these out on Wednesday. We record on Tuesday. That's one of the reasons that we haven't done a live one yet. We will at some point do a live one, but obviously that's got to be in the evening, not in the middle of the afternoon. And there are some other shows that already are doing Tuesday night, so we'll have to look at the schedule, and we will let everybody know ahead of time if we're going to do a live one and give you guys enough advanced notice.
I'd love to do a live one or two from SmackDown since we're going to be there the whole week.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, and we can do it. We can definitely do it with our phones, so it's perfectly fine. There's some news out of NHRA that we're going to touch on. There's some other subjects that we want to touch on. First, I will ask you, how was your weekend?
It was good. Lots of logistics going on, lots of SmackDown going on. And oh, by the way, we have Martin before SmackDown, but because those people are just amazing, you literally just show up at 1:31 and the Peterson family has it taken care of.
Correct.
Not that other tracks don't, but it lessens my burden for that race. So
and
that kind of stuff. That's
The SmackDown planning is going well, I'd assume.
Yeah, I have to learn to start checking stuff off instead of adding it to the list. Every morning I'm like, oh, let's add, and then I'm like, now we're up to 7 pages. Check nothing off. Good to go.
The objective is to get rid of some of the things on your list and not continuously add more. At this point, we've got 6 weeks, I think. 6 or 7 weeks, something like that, in middle of September, and we are steadily approaching the last day of July. So I will tell you, went to Denver over the weekend. Not that my weekends are nearly as interesting as yours, but went to Denver. Had a headache most of the weekend, no matter how much water I drank. But I did take some migraine meds, and it was a great weekend. I got to see my cousin for the first time in let me think about this. I'm going to say 1997.
Wow.
So, 27 years almost.
Your mom looks so good.
She had such a great time. It was really nice to, and because you know my mom very well, it's always nice to get to go somewhere and do something with her. And the smile on her face, because she hadn't seen my cousin Mark in even longer than I had. So the last time I saw him is when he was living in Whitewater, and I was there. I think I was dating somebody at the time, and ran into him and Grandma and my uncle, who were all living in Whitewater at the time. But it had been an eternity since my mom got to see him, and he had a smile on his face all weekend. We went to his and his wife's house so many times that I didn't even need the GPS from the hotel by the last time that we went over there. Beautiful views of the mountains and everything. So it was definitely nice to have a non-working weekend. I went to a wedding at a botanical garden, and I did not take any camera gear with me this last weekend. I took my cell phone, and that was it.
And it looked really hot. Everybody thinks Colorado is cold all the time, but that is definitely not the case, because this is typically, we're about 2 weeks later right now than we have NHRA Denver, or we did, and it's 100 degrees. And
it was
chubby girl, 100 degrees, altitude, no bueno.
It was painfully hot. But a quick funny story before we get into it. We're at the Botanical Gardens on Saturday evening. So it was hot all day Saturday. Friday night was beautiful. We had to get together over at Mark and Elsa's house, and dinner, and probably 20-25 people were there. And then that was, you could not have asked for better weather. Then Saturday, ridiculously hot, like mid to upper 90s at a botanical garden. And we're at the botanical garden, but it's like there's this awning over the section that we're at, and it's got these misters like you see in the salad section or the vegetable section of the grocery store. So the misters are going off as everybody is sitting there, and I'm sitting right underneath one getting water dripped on me, and I wasn't complaining because it felt great.
Yeah.
But then about 7 o'clock, I think we had dinner at about 6:30ish, quarter to 7, 7 o'clock. It rained pretty good. I mean, it wasn't a storm or anything, but it rained pretty good. And then I walk out from our table, and there's a double rainbow, and I have never ever seen a rainbow so clear in my life. Like, you could see every band of color clear as day, and the separation between the bands. But then there was a second one as well, and I'm like, and I told my cousin, and I were always very close with Grandma, and I said, this is a sign from Grandma, just acknowledging your wedding day, because I never thought he was actually going to get married. But his wife is amazing. The whole thing was great. Mom had an amazing time, except for she was not a big fan of getting up at 3:30 in the morning to catch our flight home on Monday morning. And the irony in that was she was flying Delta, and we all know the problems that Delta's been having. Her flight Monday morning, she was scheduled to fly out at 7. I was scheduled to fly out at 6:50. By the time we got to the airport at 5 a.m., my flight had already been bumped an hour, and her flight was on time.
To make up for the debacle they had, they got to have a few on time.
Well, yeah, and she had no problems flying out there. I had no problems flying out there. Southwest is apparently going to start doing assigned seating instead of generalized seating. I hope that they upgrade their seats, because their seats suck. I will continue to fly Delta as often as possible, because Southwest seats are extremely uncomfortable. I did have the best flight attendant in the world. He had everybody laughing before the flight and then landing, and it was just, he was off the charts funny. I almost busted a gut just laughing listening to him. So obviously today
I was not laughing at you. I felt bad that you were having the altitude headaches and stuff. Not laughing. That was not what I meant to say. And then I thought to myself, I'm going to Colorado this coming Saturday. Our train trip is 14,000 feet altitude, and I'm 8 months post pneumonia.
Just drink a lot of water. And if you have to, when you get there, buy some of those cans of oxygen. You told me this when I went to go and photograph Pikes Peak. And I'm like, I'll be fine. And then when I was at 14,000 feet, I'm like, I should have listened to Ellen, because people don't understand how real altitude issue. And now, can you imagine these climbers? And let's not forget, there was, 50, 60 years ago, there was a time when people would climb Mount Everest and other peaks without oxygen tanks.
Yeah.
And once in a while, people will still try to do it. But at 14,000 feet, I can't imagine what the air is like at 20, 22,000, 24,000 feet.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how any human being could actually breathe at that point.
I need oxygen going up a flight of stairs, so, I mean.
Well, yeah, trust me, I know the feeling. And then I come home, and speak of that, where's Casper today? Is he not joining us yet?
Casper, kitty. We'll see. How are your kitties? How's Axel better?
No, he's still hanging out underneath the end table in the bedroom. That's where he slept last night. That's where he's been pretty much all day today. I give him one more day. If he's not feeling better, he's going to have to go to the vet. He went through this.
Ears and make sure he's not burning up.
His ears are warm too, so I'm pretty sure that he managed to get himself sick while I was gone.
Well, welcome, Casper.
So, this is Tuesday, July 30th. Obviously, the huge news out of NHRA today, and there's something else I want to address after we talk about this, is that Fast Jack Beckman is going to be filling in for John Force for the foreseeable future in the Peak Camaro in Funny Car. if I read that correctly, John was actually second in points before his crash.
Mhm.
Um, Again, I'm not going to get into how the whole point system works because I would be completely confused. Ellen would always be able to explain that better. But Jack is obviously, I think he's won over 30 national events. He's
Mhm.
got he's got a world championship. I don't think he's driven in, I want to say it's 5 years now,
Mhm.
4 or 5 years. But what are your thoughts in regards to Jack hopping in the seat for the JFR team, and what do you think we're going to see the second half of the season with him behind the wheel?
Well, first of all, it's really hard to make announcements or anything and to have them be cute, unique. There's Casper. Cute, unique, anything like that. And that was what, a 45-second announcement that was very cute and thought out. Like that was worth watching. They outdid themselves. Of course, JFR has an amazing social team too, and they can conjure up stuff like that. But I've known about Beckman for a few weeks now, and it I think it was fairly clear the battle was going to be Beckman or TJ was kind of what everybody thought. And then people thought the announcement a few weeks ago about, hi, Casper, hi, your head, about Robert Height talking about a replacement. People thought Robert Height was a replacement. And to my knowledge, he is still on medical leave and not able to drive currently. I don't know any updates on that. It's not my business, and doesn't matter. He obviously has to take care of whatever he has to take care of, and um, you know, Beckman is a phenomenal driver. Beckman was also our voiceover person for our MAV TV Midwest broadcast. Remember?
Yep, yep.
So I did speak to him a few times. I've talked to him at the track and stuff. We had a common funny at the track because when I first worked for Tony Pendragon, we were sponsored by K-Love, the Christian radio station, not for profit.
Yeah.
And then he was sponsored by Make-A-Wish from, the Chandler family and things like that. And we had a common laugh about nobody. I mean, how many times do you understand that the not-for-profit is not funding your car?
I remember you having to, hi Casper. Good that you've joined us today. How are you doing? Just don't smack the phone. I remember you and I having talks about that. Because you obviously know much better than I do because I've only met Jack a couple of times when I've done national events. What are your thoughts as far as, because obviously he was around when you were day to day in NHRA. What are your thoughts as far as the personality and the fit with the JFR team at this point? Because Jack, if you look at it, Jack is considered the old guy, just like John is, because Jack has been there, done that. And, if you look at the rest of the JFR team that's currently fielding cars on the circuit, he's considered the old guy.
He is. I mean, he's not as old as John Force. But you're right. He is the old guy. I think he's going to fit right in. I think, from what I understand, he's going to debut in the car at Norwalk Night Under Fire before Brainerd, is my understanding. I don't know if that has changed. I didn't read a press release today. I just watched the little video, so that he would be in the car and acclimated and stuff like that. I don't think he'll miss a beat getting in the car because he's kept his license current. So he's been making passes occasionally. I think that the team probably really needs it. I know a couple people on several of the Force teams, and it's tough. I mean, it's super, super tough to put somebody in a car that just hurt someone, and even though it's not the same car and the same body. And I mean, you can tell that Brittany has changed, or that it's different for her. Plus, she's, again, I didn't look at the points after we just ran Sonoma. She was 10th or 11th in points, and because she missed a race, that doesn't guarantee her a spot in the countdown. So, to my knowledge, she has to fight for that 10th place to get in the countdown, which, I mean, last year, the year before that. I mean, she was 1, 2, 3 all the time. I mean, she was having difficulties this year way before the crash, but
I
mentally, I mean, I don't know.
I can tell you I'm actually looking at the quote unquote unofficial points following the Sonoma Nationals, and Brittany is sitting in 10th, about 78 points ahead of Josh Hart.
Okay, Josh Hart has been to all the races, so he's in. If you've attended all the races, even if you're below the cut line, below 10th, you're in. So that he can, she's still in 10th though. She gets it, and he'll be in.
Yeah. She's in 10th, and right ahead of her is Tony Stewart. He is, let's see, 43, 53, 63. Looks like about 73 points ahead of Brittany. Now, not to move away from, obviously, again, huge announcement, and congratulations to Jack, because he's just a great guy, and it's good to see the JFR team put somebody in the car, somebody who is known to the fans, and I think he brings that experience with him that even though Brittany is a former world champion and she has grown up in this sport, I think that bringing Jack in also helps the morale and the I don't want to say mentality or anything like that, because to get into one of those, you've got to have the utmost focus. But I think that it's a good move for that entire team, and I would definitely expect that Jack is going to do well, because he's going to have John's team around him, and things like that. Can you explain quickly though? So Jack, in the press release, essentially said it's been about 4 years since he stomped the pedal. As far as keeping your license up, because you and I both know that there are a lot of drivers that even when they retire, or if some of them step away to start a family, they still keep up with their license.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have to do in the nitro field to continue to keep up with your license even when you're not competing? And how often do you have to renew that license?
Unless it's changed, you have to physical every year. So pretty much most everybody has to do it in the off season. That's kind of how everybody's expiration usually works. And you have to make passes either every year or every other year, and I think it's like 5. The fall Vegas race was always fun because Ashley Force made passes on Monday after the race every year, and we loved to watch her, down there with the boys and John, and just, I mean, it was always great to see her make the passes. There are a lot of them that have licenses. If I'm not mistaken, Tommy Johnson ran Clay's car. Didn't he run last year, the year before, during our COVID era?
Oh, I can't even remember. I barely remember last week, dear. Hey, Ellen has gone. There we go. So they keep up on their licenses. Obviously, this is one of the best examples of why they keep up on their license. Something else that I want to address, and I hope Ellen doesn't go completely off the rails about this, because she never knows what we're going to talk about before I bring her on. I may give her a general idea. For the love of everything holy, can people get a clue about all of these fake social media accounts, whether they are in regards to the Force Camp, in regards to Lizzie Musey, which angers me even more, because there are people trying to scam other people into, whether it's scam them out of money, scam them out of their identity, whatever it is. But the amount of fake social media out there right now surrounding Brittany Force and John Force, and unfortunately, the amount, and again, this goes back to why I made that post that I did last week on social media. Listen, in my mind, and maybe I'm a little biased, and I'm sure there's some others out there, and I I even, got, anyways. There are a handful of mainstream media publications outside of NHRA themselves that when we are talking about the force camp, that you should be paying attention to. And I know that you've got something to say about all of these fake accounts that are trying to, all they're doing in actuality is they're trying to make money. They're trying to make money by building up a huge following. They're fake. They're not providing you any actual news. They're not getting press releases like E3, like Dragzine, Comp Plus, Bang Shift, Drag Illustrated, or even Flow. I know has got a news section of their website as well. What are your thoughts, and how do we avoid this if we can even avoid it?
It makes me furious. Just look at the name on Facebook, Brittany Force. If it's not spelled right and it's not capitalized, they're probably not a real human. Brittany has no Facebook, none whatsoever, not a fan page, not a group, not a nothing, not a personal page. John Force Racing is the only real page. And I promise you, the closest person that I know to the Force camp is Wes Buck. And if Wes Buck hasn't posted it or knows about it, I'm not saying he's the go-to for everything, but he's got a tight connection with them. And if he's not reporting, he's retired, he's, fallen off Mount Everest, it's not happened. So I know you and I specifically talked about Wes and that the other day. And, all of us have certain relationships with certain drivers, certain teams. Obviously, I have the Pedregon thing. I know a lot of stuff about a lot of NHRA stuff that I can't and won't ever talk about. But this is a health issue. Robert Height has a health issue. Mike Salinas has a health issue. It's nobody's business. If your mom is sick, do you have to put out a post on Facebook? My mother is currently in the hospital. No, you don't. These are humans. These are absolutely humans, which also goes back to posting photos of crashes and stuff. Do you post a photo of your mom that had a crash and died on the interstate? No, you're not going to post a picture of your buddy who died on the racetrack. But anyway, the amount of people who comment on some of the Brittany things, some of them are 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people comment, "We love you, Brittany. Tell your dad we love him." But almost all of the fake account posts start with, "I got no love today. Send me hearts or send me love. I'm lonely. I'm looking for the right man." Okay, not ever.
Yeah, like, hey, here's a news flash, people. Brittany Force is not going to be on Facebook making posts about the fact that she's looking for a man or that she's lonely. Like, I'm sorry, no. It's just not going to happen. And you're right. Wes and I who I have a great amount of respect for in our industry, because he is and has been at the forefront of our industry as far as on the journalism side goes, has been for the better part of 15 plus years. We don't always see eye to eye, and him and I both know that, and we've talked about that. But I do have a great deal of respect for him, and him and I had a private text conversation last week about how ridiculous all of this is. And from a selfish point of view, it's ridiculous because you've got so many people in social media land who are buying into the BS that they are seeing and not actually going to a Drag Illustrated, an E3 Extreme, a Bang Shift, a Dragzine, a Competition Plus, who obviously Competition Plus and Bobby Bennett spend a majority of their time with NHRA. So and then even Flow, because I know that Courtney Enders is over at Flow. I don't want to leave her out. I did happen to leave them out of my post, but that's neither here nor there. But again, Courtney is not going to post something that is not factual either. So, I mean, realistically, there's about, with the exception of National Dragster and NHRA themselves, or John Force Racing on Facebook, which is, I don't understand why it's not a verified page. They've got 600 and some thousand followers, but it's not a verified page. But that is their legitimate page, or even their website. So there's places that you can get real information from. Don't get sucked down the rabbit hole of believing this crap that people are putting out, like, in the spelling is terrible, and and I'm seeing it all over. I'm seeing it shared to other social media outlets, like groups that I'm part of in the motorsports industry and stuff, and I get so frustrated, and I've started trying to report these things, and they go absolutely nowhere because social media doesn't actually care about what's true and what's not. Like, if we could have a fact checker on Facebook like we did for the elections in regards to John Force news, we wouldn't be seeing 99% of what we're seeing. So,
and do you really think the most important topic in Force's house right now is, am I going to retire? Am I going to make a retirement announcement? When should I do that? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, that's not what they're worried about right now. They're worried about him walking, talking, eating, breathing, smiling with his family right now. That is their concern, not how people on Facebook feel,
Yeah, and let's face it, John never has been and probably never will be a big social media guy.
No.
I mean,
and the Beckman thing is, it's a business thing too. John has sponsors. He probably could have put someone in the car at Norwalk a few days later. It just wasn't time. It wasn't right. But it is a business also. JFR is a business. They have sponsors. They have obligations. So they're putting someone in the car in what I feel is a great time frame for doing it. Get them a race or two before the U.S. Nationals. I think it was well thought out and well planned as much as you can in the midst of a disaster.
So let me ask you, though, and I want your personal opinion on this, because I do respect your opinion. Are you surprised that it wasn't Ashley?
Not at all. Yes, we all want Ashley. We want Ashley. We want Courtney. We want Ashley. We want Ashley. We want Ashley.
Do you think we'll ever get her? Hey, you're sideways again.
We all want Ashley. Ashley has small kids. I don't speak for her. I don't know her. I mean, we share a birthday, so I feel like we're besties, but she doesn't need that. Her boys are old enough that she's traveling sports with them. Her husband, Danny Hood, is the crew chief on the car that John was driving, or a co-crew chief. So they're very much involved, but Ashley doesn't need that. I mean, again, I don't speak for her, but
Okay, well, and now I'm going to use this to segue into our next topic, and it's a topic that Ellen and I have spoken at great lengths about outside of our podcast. And it's a concern that I think both of us have, and there's some things that I think that we need to talk about, and that is, where do we go in motorsports when I don't want to use the word old guard, but the men and women who have been doing it for a long time, and I'm not even talking about just the racers. I'm talking about the engine builders, the chassis builders, the tuners. Where do we go in drag racing? Because I don't see enough of an effort made on the education side, or even building interest in getting kids or getting young people to invest their time and effort and knowledge into our sport.
We're on airplane mode now, by the way.
Huh?
I just put us on airplane mode. Sorry.
Oh, okay. And I, like, do we need somebody like Ashley back in the seat? Do we, what do we do? Obviously, last week we saw the retirement of Charlie Buck from Buck Race Engines. And I know that there are some other engine builders and chassis builders who are on the verge of calling it a day. Now they haven't made that public, so I'm not going to because it's not my business to do so. But what are we going to do? I mean, let's really think about this. If you look at probably the average age of a tuner is in their 40s or 50s.
Mm-hmm.
The average age of the high-end engine builders, and when I say high-end, it almost seems to me like Carl Stevens is a young guy
It does, yeah.
in that world. Like if you look at Buck, Musey, Fulton, the Bickle camp as far as chassis go, and some other chassis builders. Obviously, there are some young chassis builders out there, David Reese, Team Z, and quite a few others that do an amazing job at building chassis. But where are we going to go 10, 15 years from now? Because I'm not even looking at 20, 25 years from now. I'm literally looking 10 or 15 years when and if John Force decides to retire. He's been the face of NHRA. He's been the face, the one that if you don't even follow drag racing, you know who John Force is. And it's like, you know, NASCAR almost fell off a cliff after Dale Earnhardt passed away. NHRA isn't nearly as big as NASCAR is. So what do we do when somebody like a John Force decides to retire? I mean, I know that we have great talent in Ron Capps and Antron Brown and Brittany Force and Erica Enders. Well, you know, Erica's already won six championships.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 10 years from now, is she already going to have surpassed Bob Glidden and said, nah, I'm done. I'm going to call it a day. I do think Pro Stock brings in a lot more young people than most other classes. But where do you think we go? What do we need to do?
When you look at engine shops, the high-end engine shops, the big chassis companies, and everybody working in the shop is 60 plus, that's a problem. You know, you have to be willing to sweep floors at 18 or 20 and volunteer a couple of days a week to get your foot in, to show interest, to be trusted into that caliber of stuff. You know, you can't go to Musey at 18 and be like, I want to do this. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Pat may want that, but you have to come with something. And we aren't producing people out of tech schools like we used to. You know, you have to grow them, you know, and I just don't see where we are doing that for the path for younger folks. I mean, you were talking about, you know, Buck. We all read about Buck. Again, I'm not inferring anything, but Pat just lost Lizzie. So you wonder how long he's going to do day-to-day like that. I don't know his age, but he's got to be upper 60s. So you would think he's going to want time with his wife to travel and things. I mean, Jerry Bickle has died. They obviously still shop up and running, blah, blah, blah. I don't claim to know what's going on with that business or anything like that, but you see chunks gone and you have to replace them. You know, Tony Stewart was the lifeline jackpot for NHRA. Not that NHRA is dying, but in personality wise, like you were talking about John Force, who's going to replace John Force? He is a personality that can do it. I also think Austin Prock is one of the best choices out there. I've very much enjoyed the last few weeks watching Jasmine Salinas speak more on camera and the incredibly professional way she carries herself. She's a little quieter, but I mean, we need that.
Do you think that NHRA needs to do a better job? And again, I'm not taking, I know that everyone thinks that I'm constantly taking jabs at NHRA. Most of the jabs that I take at NHRA is just so that we get to the point where we're talking about things where I think it increases the visibility and overall quality of the product. Do you think that NHRA needs to sit back and go, we really need to not necessarily not focus on the people who have been there forever, but we really need to start highlighting more the younger drivers and getting them out in front of our fan base and maybe even helping them, you know, with growing their own social media? Because honestly, if I'm NHRA And I've got people coming up into the pro level, or even, drivers like a Sean Bellemere, or who is Sean even 40 yet?
Yeah,
Is he?
I think
Okay.
42, yeah.
So even younger drivers, teens and 20s that are racing, whether it's super comp or, whatever it is, helping them grow their social media presence, because that, then, as well as I do, and this is what has happened to the Force Camp, you become emotionally invested in those drivers. And when we can have connections with those drivers, and I always thought NASCAR did a brilliant job of this in the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s. They did such a great ride or die with your driver and getting you invested into drivers. And I don't think that NHRA like finds their rack to hang their hat on, if you will, and they just keep going with that. And I'm not saying not to focus on drivers like John or Cruz or Tasca or Antron or Caps. I'm not saying that we need to move away from that. I'm saying that, do you think we need to start focusing on the Salinas and who is it the new driver for Elite, Wild Gust?
Sienna Wildgust.
Yep, Sienna Wild Gust. And
Camry Caruso was in it till she
yep.
hurt herself.
Um,
Gage Herrera in bikes.
Pro Stock, just second race, went to finals.
Corey Reed.
Yes, Corey Reed. Thank you. I don't know why that was slipping my mind. I apologize, Corey, if you're watching. Yeah. And by the way, congratulations on going to the finals in only your second ever race in that category.
Screaming for him.
So, what do we need to do? I mean, you and I spend a lot of time around juniors, and then they age out into big cars.
Mm-hmm.
What does NHRA need to do? Because obviously they are the top rung of the ladder, if you will, and they have the most ability as far as brand awareness and building up the drag racing brand, if you will, to the masses. So where do we go? What do we need to do?
Something I always wanted to implement, and I've never been able to do it in any series or anything yet. I think Thursday at every racetrack should be free, and you should bus in the tech students, because they're going to come back Friday or Saturday or Sunday and bring their kid, their friends, their parents. They're going to buy stuff. What you lose in gate money on a Thursday, which people weren't coming to your event anyway on a Thursday. Here's
Correct.
a news flash.
Yeah.
Are going to bring it back on the weekends. They're going to buy a shirt. They're going to buy a hot dog. We've got to get people in there. We need to bus them in. NHRA has 20 races on their schedule. What did you and I talk about? There's only 16 tracks now in a national event. That's not that hard to make connections. UNOH, all the schools, they should be busing them in. And how about busing high school students in? School field trip. You learn things. It's not like it's just fun. You learn things. We have to get people involved. We have to all do that.
We talk all the time, and not publicly, obviously, because it might not be a topic that interests a lot of people, but STEM, which is, science, technology, engineering, math, whatever it is. STEM is, if you think about it in relations to drag racing, it is the epitome of what drag racing is. Mm-hmm. Didn't we go to a track, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, where they bust a whole bunch of younger kids in on a Thursday or something like that, and they were sitting in the grandstands, and I want to say it was one, was it, I remember the grandstands were on the right-hand side of the right lane of the track, and you and I were just like, they were only there for a couple of hours, but it was essentially a field trip for them. And I thought to myself, and you and I have had extensive conversations about this, and you're right, we don't have the tech school type of stuff. And why aren't we getting people like Mike Rowe? I would love to have Mike Rowe at a race for the entire weekend, because Mike Rowe is super pro tech school and learning a trade. And guess what? All of the things that you do in drag racing are pretty much a trade of some sort, because most of these drivers know a lot more about the car, even in the pro categories. They know a lot more about the car than, your average Joe does. And getting somebody like a Mike Rowe to come in and experience, and I don't know if he's ever been to an NHRA event. I would love to have him at a pro mod event. I think that would be great. And not just, trying to use Mike Rowe's celebrity status, but he is so in tune with how important, the tech side and the tech schools and learning a trade and things like that. And my cousin and I actually had this conversation over the weekend, because he grew up in the Milwaukee area. I grew up in the Madison area. He grew up in the Highway 100 where you cruise. I grew up on East Washington Avenue where you cruised every Friday and Saturday. Unfortunately, society has changed. Kids aren't barely even interested in getting their driver's license, much less going to cruise for 6 or 8 hours on a Friday night and hang out with their friends outside away from a TV. So I don't know what the answer is, but we certainly have to do something. And I sent you something a couple hours before we were recording this episode. Dustin Mewborn is got to be one of the smartest human beings I know. He is the one that purchased PTC, Performance Torque Converters, from Kenny Ford earlier this year. I had kind of known about it before the big release, but he didn't want to, give me the drop on it. He kind of did in a roundabout way. But he posted, they had a bunch of kids come in from, I think it was a tech school, and for like a show and tell at PTC. How many other companies, engine builders, chassis shops, turbo companies, nitrous companies, how many of you shop owners out there are willing to open your doors and invite these kids in and get them interested and explain to them, you may start out sweeping floors. Some of the best engine builders and chassis builders in the world started out as shop help and cleaning floors, and they didn't just jump right into building, $300,000 or $400,000 race cars. But how do we, with the lack of tech training at even the grade school and high school level now, we've got to do something to keep these next generations involved and invested, because if you look at F1 has got numerous different programs for growth within that industry as far as drivers, mechanics. And yes, Europe does things a lot differently. They are much more heavily into the trades than the United States is now. I mean, we used to be much better in trade training than we are now. But NASCAR, you've got the Infinity Series, and you've got, the Truck Series, and you've got other things. NHRA doesn't have, I'll use baseball as an example because Ellen and I are both huge baseball fans. You've got single A, you've got double A, you've got triple A, and then you've got the show. NHRA is the show. I would look at places like NMCA, PDRA, and Midwest as the triple A. Not that they're not great organizations, but if you want to talk about where the corporate dollars and things go, NHRA is the show. They're the ones with the TV deal. They have nitro cars. They have the faces of motorsports industry for the most part.
I mean, that is our mothership. That's where a lot of safety comes from. None of us could have a series if we didn't have the mother organization to base safety and rules off of, because none of us, PDRA, Midwest, NMCA, have the gazillions of dollars in R&D to do what they do. It's so far down the line. Something that I was thinking about when you were just saying that is, I bet if you asked Jack Beckman, John Force, what was your first job? I swept the floor in a chassis shop. I worked at an auto parts store. I delivered newspapers. People started there, but are we starting there anymore? I mean, I know, delivering newspapers is not a real thing anymore. I don't think. I don't know. But
I don't
the
know. I always
principle,
find them in my driveway.
but the principle of it, I still remember the school field trips that I went on. I remember one time we went on a school field trip to Pizza Hut and we got to make our own pizzas. And I loved that. And that had a tiny little bit of shaping my life, you gotta have some spark and start somewhere.
I remember watching a movie, and it was either late 80s, early 90s, with Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez, where they were garbage truck workers. And after watching that movie, I wanted to be a garbage man. I thought that was like the best career possible. It looked like so much fun hanging off the back of a garbage truck. I actually saw a post last week in the Chattanooga car enthusiast group. It was a guy that was looking for a shop to work at that did like pro mods, radials, Hemi, turbo, blower stuff, and just wanted to get his foot in the door, sweeping floors, taking out the trash, and trying to learn. So obviously Tim Lyons, who does, builds some of the most beautiful chassis cars in the world, and has done pro mod, radial, everything. I tagged him along with Duncan Race Car Fabrications, who has a shop right next to the track here outside Chattanooga. Why is it, though, and I'm hoping that I never heard anything on whether he talked to any of those guys, but I did tag them in it. So let me ask you, because you've kind of made a transition, if you will, or adding to your resume of learning more about dirt track racing.
Mm-hmm.
And from the outsider view, because I don't know much about dirt track racing, though I grew up in a town where dirt track racing is big. It never really piqued my interest. I see a lot more younger people much more interested in dirt track racing than they are straight line racing.
The dirt track racing is typically the big sprint car class and one or two support classes. A lot of the guys run all three classes or the two classes. They pack up the car, they run the race, they drive, they take the rig out at night, they sometimes service the car in hotel parking lots the next morning. That the shows are 3, maybe 4 hours long. They're very entertaining. There's stuff. They have, the spin the wheel for your qualifying position. They have the dice roll where there's just a lot of cute little gimmicky entertainment, and it's a small package. I've been to a bunch of World of Outlaws and High Limits the last few years. It's $50 to $80 a ticket. It's no different than a day at NHRA. And I always think on Sunday at NHRA, man, it's, $80 and it's like 6 or 7 hours. It's just not much entertainment. But then I realized when I'm going to the dirt track and it's $50, $60, it's 3 or 4. Granted, you could be there hours before and hours after, walk right up and touch the cars in the pits. But it's a small, compact show that keeps you entertained. And I think there's value in that too. We're all reinventing ourselves right now. Not only do we have to entertain folks at the track, we have to entertain you on the live feed. And that's 2 different worlds. Hi, we're playing a highlight video of Bob talking in the pits. Well, Bob in the grandstands doesn't get to see the video. So you have to entertain 2 sets of people. And it's tough. It is tough. Like, I used to be able, during the downtime for precipitation, take a little break, catch up on things. Or now it's more work when it's raining because there's more to do. There's so many facets. It's tough. But having a compact show in the dirt world is amazing. They're fun. They're super fun.
We do need to do a better job of entertaining the crowd and keeping them engaged. And I think that's where social media really plays a part. And you and I have talked about drag racers and drag racing in general does not like change. They just don't.
I don't like
The,
change.
well,
Even
and
for the
neither
day,
do.
Daniel's like, we have to entertain these people. It's raining. I'm like, you're on your own, buddy. I'm too busy. I got stuff to do. And I didn't
And,
mean that like in a jerk
yeah,
way. I'm like, really? But he was 100% right.
absolutely. And I'm the same way. You know that I absolutely hate change. I am a creature of habit, if you will. I do the same things all the time. I eat the same foods all the time. I'm not, even though I am kind of a, wing it, whatever, I still kind of stay in that box sometimes, even
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to my photography. But we've got to do, in my opinion, if we don't start immediately highlighting younger drivers, keeping fans engaged, because now it's not like it was 25 years ago. Now they're sitting in the stands and they're on their phones and they're looking at social media, whatever that may be. Or you've got organizations that you're running something down the drag strip, but on the same property you're doing drifting or truck racing or whatever it is, and you're taking, well, yes, you are bringing more fans through the gate. Not enough of them are there to see drag racing,
Mm-hmm.
and we have got to have. I thought that the pro thing down in Florida was a great idea. Obviously, I'm not a huge fan of some things, but it was a great idea for the fans. The Night Under Fire, the like that Norwalk has, or that Brainington has, or Brainerd has their own like Night Under Fire type of thing. Where you're doing more than just racing. I talked to a racer today, who has been in the industry his entire life. He's in his 20s, and his dad is also a racer. And he's like, some of these organizations and races have turned into nothing more than bracket races, and fans are not coming to see bracket racing. They're just not.
And that's why the NHRA divisionals are empty. It's sad, but it's true. It's continuous racing. There's more racing there than is at a national event, but people don't want to watch it.
But there's got to be a balance between having good racing and providing entertainment value. And that is, again, where we have to look at, I understand, and so do you. We both understand better than most how expensive it is to put on a race or, have a track with their doors open. Like, there is a lot that goes into that people don't realize. But at the same time, you need to get butts in the seats, and you have to put on a show, and you have to price it properly. My largest argument about drag racing, besides the fact that costs have got exponentially greater, but then again, I mean, to even go grocery shopping has gotten exponentially greater. But here's the problem: is I would rather have 500 fans at X amount of dollars that's cheaper than having 1,000, or I would rather have 1,000 fans at $20 a head than, 200 fans at $50 a head, or whatever, however the math works out. I want to have more butts in the seats, and to charge $20 or $30, let's say $30 for test and tune, or for a racer, or $20 to spectate at a test and tune, whatever it may be. You don't know your market if that's what you're doing, because you're pricing people out. Listen, people can go out and spend $20 somewhere else and feel like they're getting a much better entertainment value. The only way that they're going to spend that $20 is all their friends are going, and they're like, hey, hop in the car and bring $20 with you. We're going to the drag strip.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, to me, it makes the pricing of it just doesn't make sense right now, at least in the economy that we're in. It doesn't make sense, and there's got to be a balance between. And I've said this before. I'm not going to go out and spend $80 as a fan to go see a 3-day event when I can go to a Yellow Bullet or a No Mercy or a Lights Out or a World Cup, and these other events. Hi, Casper. Hi, Casper. And these other events where I could spend the same amount of money and get 5 or 6 days of entertainment value. And it's heads up racing, and it's more entertaining. It's you got to use some common logic here, right?
Yes, but also, like you just said, groceries have gone up. Gas in your car has gone up. Hotel rooms have gone up. But the cost to operate a drag strip has also gone up. I'm admin on the Tulsa Speedway and the Tulsa Raceway Park pages, among other things. And, somebody will say, how much is it to get in? $25. Oh, I'm going to go somewhere where it's cheaper. Okay. We have to charge a certain amount. Glue has tripled in 2 years. The track prep equipment, we have to pay staff. While your groceries have gone up, so have every cost across the board for racing. So prices have to go up something.
But that also means that your disposable income that you can use on entertainment has decreased because everything else has gone up. So if you use the argument that, well, we need to increase the prices because everything else has gone up, in my mind, fiscally, you need to make sure that you're budgeting the proper amount of money during the good times to offset for the down times. You can't go, well, everything else is more expensive, so we're going to make our entertainment more expensive when people have less money to spend on that as an average spectator to begin with.
I'm so you're being so serious, and Casper's trying to catch you.
I know. Hi, Casper. Would you rather charge $20 and have 500 fans, or $10 and have 1,000 fans?
Well, and you know that I agree with you on that. I mean, the free ticket model throwdown. I mean, how many people were in the stands in March? It was or May. It was insane.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't work at every track, and it's been tried at a lot of tracks, and it doesn't work a lot of places. But thinking outside the box, we all have to think outside the box, because what we're doing right now isn't working across the board. Whether it's getting people involved, getting people to the track, getting people involved in racing. You've got to, you've got to nurture the ones that are involved. If your junior dragster kids, there should be, and I've thought about this and I really wanted to do it. I want to have a sponsor talk with Casper. Please, Damon is not talking to you. I think he muted you. Hang on. Casper, did you get rid of him? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, now we can hear you.
I can hear you and see you.
She's Louisiana, Casper.
Now, okay, there we go. Casper, I think you need to get down now. Yeah, you need to get down. Stop it.
Okay. Casper, thank you for joining us. Oh, yes, I want to be able to talk to juniors about sponsorship, how to teach them to work on getting sponsors and stuff. So when they move up, they know how to do things like that. Just you got to build what you have, and we have to keep trying to build.
And we have to engage the younger audience, whether that's through programs, through social media, just awareness of getting the word out there and making it interesting to them. I mean, look at how many 7 and 8 year olds will spend an entire weekend watching football on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, I'm a football fan. I'm a baseball fan. There is nothing more exciting than drag racing. No. There just isn't. I mean,
one of the examples, I think one of the best examples of someone that I know personally is Jacob McLean. I don't know if he's actually aged out of juniors. I think he just did this year. But he was going with his parents to NHRA races, volunteering with teams, trying to learn. He has multiple times asked me, read my sponsor proposal. Do you have any suggestions? Anything I can do? Anything I can help with? You got to be there. If you're serious about that, you got to be there, because I'm racing out of my parents' pocketbook gig doesn't last much past junior, and I mean that nicely. It costs more. You got to do things, but
Yeah.
for him, he's just so eager. I mean, the Kestersons are the same way, and the Clockers, and those are just people that I have personal, relationships with, as do you. But you got to be proactive. I mean, you and I don't just sit here and go, oh, I mean, hope we get a check today.
Yeah, I hope somebody sends me some money today. Like, that's not the way that works.
Right.
But I also go to these races and I go, and the same person that I talked to earlier, he even told me, I said, listen, one of the coolest things that I thought I would absolutely hate, but I was so glued to, was that jet car at St. Louis that melted other cars.
I know. And did you see last weekend? Maybe it was the weekend before. I'm sure you saw Samuel Peterson's Facebook page about the Bigfoot monster truck going down his racetrack for NMCA. Genius. I remember when they did that at 80-year-old. I loved it. The barbecue thing at our St. Louis race. I thought it was probably the dumbest thing I had seen in a long time, until I saw it and I saw how engaged people are on it.
And here's the thing. It does not take away from the racing.
Because, and what does that cost? There were 2 junk cars. You had to pay the jet car guy his fuel.
Yeah.
I mean, he just sat there and burned it. I mean, I can't imagine it cost much.
And people were, you and I, who have seen pretty much every damn thing there is to see at the racetrack, the two of us are sitting next to each other in the tower going, is this really happening?
I mean,
like, we couldn't take our eyes off of it.
Dumbfounded.
Yeah.
Like, well, first, I mean, the video that I did on Thursday when he arrived was for real. I'm like, there's a jet car and an open trailer, and the dude's got like flip-flops and shorts on, and he's starting it up with a can of fuel that looks like it came from Ace Hardware, and
on the trailer.
On the trailer, and I'm concerned, and
yeah. But then when
genius.
Yeah, when it came out on Saturday night or whatever, we're all sitting there like, holy crap, this is cool.
When you see, us who we've been to a million races and seen everything, standing next to Jimmy Bradshaw, standing next to Shane Tecklenburg, standing next to, whoever else, and we're all like,
is this really happening?
And it's still going.
Yeah.
And it's still going, and we're all still watching.
Yeah.
And it's still going.
Like, none of us.
We're watching fireworks and the cars are flamed up again. Still going.
Like, none of us got up and walked away from that. We were we were hooked. Like, what is going to happen next? And honestly, I think
there's a jet car going down the track to me and costs a whole lot less.
Honestly, I think that No Prep Kings, No Prep Elite, whatever they're going by now, I think has done a really good job of connecting with their fans, like we've talked about as far as the engagement with their fans. They've done great on social media. Yes, I know that they are on TV. So we need, because we are not necessarily, we're not going to be on distribution TV, if you will, the social media outlets and the social media where, you can get tens of thousands of views in a day and things, and bring that entertainment value to. All you've got to do is capture a new viewer with, maybe you've got, let's say 20 seconds to really capture them. And if you do a good job at that, then you're going to get a repeat customer, because then all of a sudden, if they start liking that kind of stuff, that's what they're going to see, because that's what the algorithm is going to show them, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever. You're going to start to see these things. And when a John Force retires, or some of the older drivers who have been around NHRA for a while, that NHRA is kind of hung, I don't want to say put all their eggs in one basket, but NHRA also doesn't like change. um, we need to focus on these young drivers.
Hmm.
And we need to, again, and I harp on this every time you and I talk, drag racing is the most diverse sport in the world. It doesn't matter your age, your, race, your sexual orientation. None of that matters in drag racing. And yet we don't, because there is an outlier of, some people look at motorsports as the redneck backwoods, and then they watch F1, and F1 is like this, experience. You see celebrities, and why aren't more celebrities coming to drag racing? I'm just saying. And I don't want drag racing to turn into F1. I don't. I mean, technology would be cool, or the R&D budgets would be really nice. But I hope it never turns into kind of, whatever. But realistically, an F1 weekend is a 3-day weekend, and even as a fan, listen, I looked at cheap seats for the Miami race
Hmm.
last year. Like, obstructed view cheap seats for one person were like $1,000. And those stands are absolutely packed, and they don't have, I mean, you're talking what, maybe a couple hours of racing, not including, testing or
And to my
qualifying.
knowledge, you can't go anywhere near the cars in the pits. Like,
No,
no, it's not
no.
open, you know?
Drag racing, I mean, you can walk up and talk to the drivers, take selfies. Even in NHRA, at the pro level, a lot of the time you're going to see drivers walking around in the pits. They may have their pits roped off, but listen, and I need to explain something to the casual spectator here that most don't understand. If you see pits roped off, whether it's at a pro mod race, whether it's at NPK, or whether it's at NHRA, 99% of the time, that pit is roped off for safety precautions, not because the drivers don't want to interact with fans or whatever else it may be. It is because it is a dangerous area, especially in the nitro pits. It is a dangerous area to be in, and if you don't know what you're doing, you should not be within a certain range of. There's
Hmm.
too many things that can go wrong. But outside of NHRA, including NHRA Pro Mod pits, they are great at not roping stuff off, interacting with fans. Obviously, you will have, their moments. You don't go up to them right after they've lost a round and, try to have a kumbaya with them, because they're probably not going to be in the best of moods. But drag racing, dirt track racing, you buy a ticket as a spectator.
Hmm.
And I don't care if you're 8 or 88. You buy that ticket and you can go walk around and get close to these cars, close to these drivers, have these experiences and these interactions with all of these people. And, it's just a great experience. And I don't know why it is that we are not. I think we do a terrible job at marketing our industry, at least the drag racing side of it. I think dirt track, and then going up into NASCAR, I think, and even Xfinity and the truck racing, I think, do a better job. And maybe it's because of their budgets. But in case people forgot, social media is free. If you create good content, I mean, you and I both know this. We built E3 Extreme social media completely organic and have, I don't know, 26,000 followers on the Facebook page. You build the thing organically, um, without, boosting posts and paying for this and paying for that. It is possible to do these things organically without a lot of cost out of pocket. Now
I have 52,000 followers on my personal,
you have to
none of
have
that's paid.
you have to have things in place for people to thrive.
You do.
And I've got a million ideas, and some of them cost little to no money, and some of them cost a lot more money. But highlighting these younger drivers, which I think Midwest has done a better job and maybe I'm a little biased, but I've covered a ton of other organizations. I think Midwest does a better job at promoting their junior dragsters than any other organization in the country. Um, and I hope to see that continue. And that's what we need to do, but it's a double edge because the organization needs to do it, but the drivers need to be on board with doing it for themselves as well. I run into entirely too many people in their 40s and 50s who are like, I don't understand social media. I've got no interest in social media, yada, 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 so I'm not going to bother. You all right over there?
Yeah, sorry. Just got a bunch going on all of a sudden.
Oh, you're good. So, I mean, in general, we need to really push the social media because it's free. They need to be out there doing everything that they can to promote themselves.
Just don't abuse it.
Oh, I agree.
That's your personality now is in writing. If you are a asshole on social media, you're not getting sponsors for the most part.
You are correct. I mean, with the exception of a lot of the no prep stuff. But
those are still characters too,
yes.
Just like wrestling. But I promise you, if you're filling out a job application right now, they go into your Facebook page.
Yeah, and let's face it, a lot of the no prep is a lot like F1. It is an experience and it is a lifestyle. It is much different a lot of the time than your top level pro mod racing, or once you get into NHRA, your pro level, pro stock bikes, which get no love at all, by the way. That's a topic for another day. And then even all the way up into nitro, because I will tell you that some of the best nitro drivers on social media, Ron Capps, Antron Brown, Clay Milliken, I mean, Erica's the elite, the whole elite team does a really good job with managing and handling their social media. I think.
You know what those people have in common, the ones you just named, though?
What?
To my knowledge, the ones you just named do their own social media. Yes, they have people in the background helping with videos and stuff like that. But if you are going to have someone else do your social media, they better know you. When I make posts on Keith Haney's page, I write it like I'm Keith or like he's speaking, because it's not Ellen's page. And Keith doesn't say things like that. But seriously, those people you named do their own social media, not against John Force.
Tasca, the same thing. Tasca is great at his social media, but he does his own social media.
And those are driver owners too. That also makes a difference.
Alex Laughlin at every level has been absolutely amazing with his social media because he does it himself. You have to engage these people. You can't be robotic about it. You need to actually feel like you're having personal engagement. And that's why those fake pages do so well, because they get people to believe that they are actually engaging with the person, not just a corporation or a race team. They get people to believe that they're actually talking to Brittany or talking to John, and that John or Brittany or whoever is reading their messages and reading their well wishes and everything. And that is very frustrating because the people that are putting that content out there are taking advantage of all of these people in the process, and these people don't understand that. So I think that's kind of what bothers me. Is it's kind of like when an elderly person gets scammed with a computer thing. You're taking advantage of somebody. They're taking advantage of what's going on and using it to their benefit, and they don't care about the repercussions to the other people out there.
And here's a newsflash. The last thing people want to see do videos about is you on the racetrack. Because the average corporate sponsor, the average sponsor person doesn't care if you went 350, 380, 390. They don't even know what that means. They want to see how you got to the track. What did you do grocery shopping? What does it take to get to a track? By the way, people can still call your phone in airplane mode.
If you're, because you're connected to Wi-Fi, yes.
Okay. So that's a topic for another day. we can go on forever, and we should, but
yeah, I agree. And so my suggestion to the younger people and promoters, track owners, everybody is to get engaged, be engaged, and keep it moving forward and keep it interesting for the fans, and price your product accordingly. Listen, if you sell out in 5 minutes, okay, quickly, I'll make this very quick. Obviously, I'm not a fan. Ellen is much more of a fan than I am of this analogy. If Taylor Swift is going to put on a 3-hour show, and let's say she's going to do 3 nights at the BOK or whatever in Tulsa. Is that what it's, the BOK Center or whatever? If she's going to do 3 nights there, and ticket prices are $100 a piece, and she sells out that concert in 5 minutes, she probably could have gotten $150 a piece. On the flip side of that, if you are an artist or an entertainer and you are doing the same thing and you charge $100 and you don't sell out a single show, you are overpricing your value. And if all of a sudden it's $75 and you are close to selling out, you're probably pretty close to valuing your product and valuing the entertainment value that you bring to your consumer base. Drag racing is terrible at that. So we've got to get educated about that and figure out not only what's going to bring people in, but how to make sure that we are pricing it fairly. So with that in mind, do you have anything else you want to add before we go?
I don't. No, I don't.
Okay. Next week,
let us know what you want us to talk about. Like I say every week, comments, tell us what you want to see.
Let us know. And make sure that you like and share this stuff. We will keep doing it. Next week, Ellen is on vacation and too busy for me. So I just had to. She needs a vacation anyways. So I'm never going to fault her for taking a vacation.
You know how hard it is to get a vacation from 2 jobs at once?
No, because I just take vacation whenever I want, so I don't have to worry about it.
Daniel is wonderful. I'm grateful to him.
So next week, I will. I'm going to talk to some people and hopefully do an interview next week that I can bring you guys, and hopefully the week after that, Ellen will come back to us if she hasn't completely lost her mind yet. With that in mind, we both appreciate you guys either watching or listening. Again, if you like the content, like, subscribe, leave comments. We will definitely try to answer all the comments. Let us know. And Ellen and I can bring on more guests too. If you want the 2 of us to interview somebody together, we will definitely figure that out.
We've tapped Casper out. I think he's out on interviews.
Yeah, I think he is completely out. Before we go, I do want to thank Menscer Motorsports and over there, Classic Graphix. They obviously have been on forever with us and continue to support us and really are the best.
Representing Jason Reese today. Jason Reese has the cancer message get checked out.
Yep, absolutely. And Jason is obviously, I've known Jason for more than 2 decades and I consider him a close friend. But yeah, it definitely take care of your body, your mind, your soul. And if you're in the need of shocks or struts, contact Menscer. They're going to get you taken care of. They've also got the best customer service that I've ever seen in any industry, period. And Classic Graphix, listen, we all need crew shirts. We all need T-shirts, whatever it may be. Doesn't even have to be motorsports related. Scott and the crew over at Classic Graphix can handle it for you. So make sure to contact them. If you want to let them know that we sent you, much appreciated. You don't have to, but if they ask where you heard about them, just kind of mention E3 Extreme or Damon and Ellen. They'll get the idea. With that in mind, we will see you guys again soon. Thank you, Ellen, for being on. I always appreciate it. Please make sure to thank Casper.
I will.
All you guys take care, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.